Good morning, folks. I think it's still morning on in Central Time. My name's J. Eric Gentry, and I'm going to be talking to you over the next 15 minutes or so about compassion fatigue. I've spent a goodly chunk of my life working on it. I went to did my doctoral work at Florida State, where I was Charles Figley and I started the very first traumatology institute on the planet in 1997. And he had just written had just finished writing the book Compassion Fatigue, and while I was studying there at Florida State, we developed, Anna Baranowski and I, a psychologist from Canada. She is the CEO of the Traumatology Institute Canada. We developed an individual treatment program protocol for compassion fatigue called the Accelerated Recovery Program, and evolving from that, we developed a one-day workshop that is now called the Forward-Facing Professional Resilience course. But I've been able to publish, I think we've got 15 empirical articles that have demonstrated that that workshop is an effective treatment for both burnout and secondary traumatic stress, which are the two components of compassion fatigue, and significantly lessens the symptoms of the participants of that workshop, as well as significantly augmenting compassion satisfaction, resilience, and professional quality of life. So I've worked with thousands of professionals and helping them to resolve the effects of compassion fatigue in 25 years, actually longer than 25 years, 27 or 28 years of professional development. Of research and development around compassion fatigue. The sum total of my wisdom on that are these words. You do not have to suffer to be a professional caregiver. And that is empirically demonstrated. And I can take it a step further. If you are suffering from your work, you're doing it wrong. There are clear pathways of professional resilience that allow you to work in a toxic environment and develop the immunity to that toxicity and be able to have professional quality of life, even with the most high demand of professions. I've worked with just about every caregiving field that there is, from physicians to attorneys to mental health professionals to faith leaders to animal care professionals, across the board, lots and lots of groups. And there's some simple things, not easy things, but simple disciplines that when you engage them, that you become impervious to the effects of that of your work. You become insulated from secondary traumatic stress. You develop the capacity to stay above the fray of burnout, and it's like you enjoy getting to be a care professional, which is one of my favorite things, is watching grizzled veterans who are really burned out do the 5-day or 5-session model with me, and watch them rekindle mission and get excited about going back to work, and at the end of their career, finding the capacity to be fully connected to their mission. But that PESI asked me, I was supposed to, Cole asked me to plug the course that I do. I've been training for PESI since 2005, and I currently teach. I've got several courses that I do with PESI, but the one primary one that I do is the Certified Clinical Trauma Professional course, and I've been doing that since that particular course since I think 2010, and I've trained somewhere in the neighborhood of 200,000 people on 4 different continents over the past 30 years that I've been doing this. But I want to be able to give you some things to take with you to do that give you that immunity, and the biggest step that happens in the workshop, kind of the most important thing, is that and I've teach people to do that workshop now. And one of the most daunting and difficult things to do is to convince people that their job is not stressful, which is really important to be able to grow the resilience of the professional resilience, to be able to be healthy in that environment, is to evolve beyond perceiving ourselves as victims of our environment, and instead begin to understand that compassion fatigue, the effects of compassion fatigue, are not caused by the environment. They're not caused by work. They're caused by our autonomic nervous system. That because of all of our painful past learning, we're actually trauma survivors. And there are three different ways that professionals can get traumatized. They can survive painful experiences. I've been attacked by a couple of clients physically, and I've been threatened and all kinds of other stuff. Actual criterion A events, things that I've survived as a clinician. The second way a care provider can get traumatized is by listening to story of trauma. And when we listen to story of trauma, our nervous system still activates, and it's as though we are the protagonist. As we're hearing that story, our empathy window opens up, and our mirror neurons create the holographic images of the story as it's unfolding from our clients' mouths, and we end up encoding that as trauma. And then there's a third, even more insidious way, is that, and this comes through Stephen Porges' work with the polyvagal theory. What we've learned over the past 15 or 20 years is that we're exquisitely attuned to other human beings, especially human beings that are having a threat response. And if you are around other people that are anxious, then you have an involuntary threat response in your own body. And, I would just ask you, how anxious are your coworkers? Well, there's the toxicity of the environment. If you're around people that are in, the clinical term for that is jacked up nervous systems, then your nervous system's going to be jacked up, unless you are, drum roll, unless you develop the capacity for regulating your own nervous system, developing the skills to be able to, first discover that you're having a threat response. And there's lots of different ways to do that. I got a ring that'll actually do that. You can check your pulse. You can look at your heart rate variability. There's lots of different measures that measure autonomic nervous system dysregulation, but the simplest way is discovering that you have constricted muscles in your body. And if you have involuntarily constricted muscles in your body, then you are in a threat response, unless you got lockjaw or some other weird disease. And if you stay in a threat response all day long, then you're going to get symptoms. That threat response is built for 30 seconds of augmented functioning in human beings. We have a threat response that it helps us run faster. It helps us have more stamina. It helps our neocortex work better for 30 seconds. And what so many people who are, that I've worked with that are health professionals, they're in their sympathetic nervous system. They're in their threat response all day long. And they've learned to develop somatic dissociation, so they don't even feel what's happening in their body frequently. There's just this vague sense of disquiet, of distress. But what's happening is those symptoms are fomenting somatically, neurophysiologically. And so we've kind of discovered that there are 5 primary resilience skills, which when applied produce that state of resilience. And number one most important skill is the ability to discover that you have constricted muscles in your body and then intentionally releasing them. And when you intentionally release involuntarily constricted muscles, you restore yourself back to well-being. You cannot have stress in a body whose muscles are relaxed. Let me say that again, because that's a really big deal. You cannot have stress in a body whose muscles are relaxed. So you're in a comfortable body. You are no longer generating symptoms. The problem is that because of all of our painful past learning and the way that trauma gets encoded, it gets encoded in sensory memory. And anytime we've had any painful learning, then the sensory experiences from that painful learning get encoded in the implicit memory and charged by our amygdala with fear. So what happens is the next and future time we're in any of those contexts or situations, then what happens is our amygdala fires here in the present, causing us to perceive threat where there is little or no danger. Well, how much painful learning do you have as a caregiving professional? I mean, forget about your developmental stuff, forget about junior high school, all of that. Just in our careers, we have tens, hundreds of thousands of painful experiences in our careers. So what's happening is we go to work. You know, I always say that our work's not stressful, but it is a haunted house. When we go to work, we're constantly encountering sensory stimuli throughout the day. That because of our painful past learning, we are perceiving threat in those situations that we're encountering that sensory stimuli. And it is compelling us against our will to act out in aggression or avoidance, and it is constantly generating those symptoms. So developing that capacity to release the tension in the muscles of our body in real time while engaged with our clients, while doing our work, while all the activities of daily living, professional activities of daily living that we're doing in our work context, being able to relax into those situations is the a priori most important skill that we can do. And getting that up to 100 or so times a day, then you are not suffering stress from your work anymore. It is simple. It's not easy. Now, there's the other component of that. I think I'm running short on time, but the other 4 skills are intentionality, which is to when we're in a dysregulated nervous system, we find ourselves acting in ways that we don't want to act, that we act against our will. We are compelled to become aggressive or avoidant in those situations. So regulating and becoming intentional more and more and more as we go through our day, that is resilience building. Perceptual maturation. It's not your workplace that causes your stress. It is your perception of your workplace that causes your distress. So it's a lot easier to change the perception than it is to change the workplace. And that takes a little bit of work and some while of working on it. But as people evolve those perceptions, then they are able to become, then their work becomes less toxic. Last 2 are connection and support, having a network of support that you can step to and utilize those folks, and self-care and revitalization. Those are the 5 resilient skills that have demonstrated the ability to help professionals, thousands of them, to be able to work in this field for the rest of their lives and not have to suffer doing it. I hope that has been useful. If there is any way that I can be of service to any of you out there, you are welcome to reach out to me. And you can find my contact information on through PESI. And it was a joy to spend a little chunk of the morning with you, and my goodwill and support goes with you. Thank you very much for your time.